Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. We've had a fairly quiet tropical system season so far. We're already up to the E storm, but they've mostly been innocuous and out to sea or just bootleg systems as NHC classified. But I think we're going to have to shift gears here into what we call the height of tropical season. Obviously, September 10th is the peak, but the upper level atmosphere, which has been kind of hostile towards development, is starting to change a little bit. And we can actually see that here. This is the forecast for the rest of this week into Labor Day weekend. We're starting to see some upward motion and some outward upper air divergence, which is favorable for tropical development here in the Atlantic Basin. Here's the United States. This is the Atlantic Basin. But you notice the core of the best development areas in green here are in the Pacific Basin. Again, Hawaii just had a Hurricane Lane, obviously a very favorable environment. And over here, over towards India and the Indian Ocean, very unfavorable. So the monsoon season is about to be quiet over there in India. But for the most part, the green areas are favorable for development and the red areas unfavorable. Uh, High level talking here. That's for this week. Now look as we shift into week two. This wave pulses across, and now all of a sudden we have a very favorable environment in the Atlantic and the Pacific. So we should see one or two storms here, and probably one or two storms here, and maybe one in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's what I'm thinking here. And that's what the kind of the models are hinting at. This is the period from the 4th of September to the 11th of September. We see that uptick, and again, this is saying not much. It's climatological peak of season. So, but we're not seeing this hostile environment like we see most of the summer. We're actually seeing a more favorable one here. Uh, and this is actually showing up in some of our longer range models. This is the European model starting September 2nd, this Labor Day weekend. And notice it's got a little system depicted here off of Africa, and it wants to develop it and blossom it into like probably the F name storm Florence or Flo. And then it probably is looking like a likely an out to sea type of scenario. But I want to focus your attention here on this little blurb and this blob that is in the near Florida and the western Gulf Coast tries to get going. And some of the models here, this is 51 members of the European ensemble, are depicting some action in the Gulf. And the Gulf is favorable for upward motion. So, that would be something to look at post Labor Day. This is the period September 6th. So there is some action starting to be hinted at in the models here. Again, very upper level divergence, very favorable for development into that period, again, the 4th through the 11th. And again, the models are going a little bit more gung-ho with one or two systems in the Atlantic and possibly one near the Gulf of Mexico. That's our tropical update for this evening. I'm experimenting with this software, and I'm going to upload it and see what you think. Have a good night.